At what point, Akshay, in a portfolio, does it make sense to invest in a platform like HostEasy? Is this a tool for someone with 2 properties, 20, or 200?
So we don't look at it like how many properties. We look at how much freedom you want. We have hosts who just don't want to do anything, right? Now, the only option they have is 20% to 15% of the revenue to property manager and no transparency, no visibility, no control, right? Because they do it their way. You can, rather than doing that, you can use HostEasy, full managed, and boom, there you go. So that's what, or we have like property managers, 30, 50, 80 listings. They really need something like that. And they're running something we call Frankenstack, right? Because now you
Yes.
have Erno, right, for finding cleaners and paying them. Then you have Breezeway for ticketing for them. Then you have PMS for like channel management. You have the Price Lab for dynamic pricing. You have AutoHost for this. And then Notion, Google Docs, passwords, you got to do that. Training VAs. No, everything under this one platform, right? And they love that idea about it because the moment you're more than 20 properties, it just makes sense. Okay, everything is here and Alfred is in the center. And I just have to tell Alfred will
Right.
update everywhere. It's a different experience.
It's funny that you use that term Frankenstack because the very first place I ever heard the term tech stack was at a short-term rental conference. This guy goes up and he's like, I'm going to share my whole tech stack. And I was like, what's a
What is
tech
it?
stack? And then he's sharing all these tools he uses. And I was like, that's a lot. So like, that's how a lot of short-term rental operators are in the space. And it really is,
And
it
think
is a
about it.
Frankenstack. And then they break. The ties talking to each other break and it stops working. Because one of them updates and then you've got to like redo the connection or,
And
I
not
feel like any short-term rental person listening probably has some experience like that.
Yeah, and not even the connection. Forget about, okay, you have 10 logins, we can make do with that somehow, right? But imagine now all of a sudden your pool, you want to take off the listing. We don't do pool anymore because it's too much hassle, right? So where are you going to change that? Now you have to change it on host buddy quick replies. On Airbnb, remove the amenities. Then on property guides, then on Notion, because that's what like your VAs are going to use, right? Then you need to change. You see, everywhere you have to keep doing that. And still you don't know something. If something is missed, your VA can say the other thing and something might be other. Your maintainers, like vendors, know different thing altogether. It does not scale like that. And here, because everything is one spot and you can just literally, in our case, Alfred, we don't do pool anymore. Update everywhere. Updates the listing, updates the knowledge base, talks to when guest asks says the same thing, vendor asks says the same thing. All of that just goes like, and also pricing. Now it knows that is not one of the amenities you provide. It will also update the pricing based on that kind of comp set. And it becomes like
Love it.
super like that.
Now, I'm curious, Akshay, because obviously, you're on the ground in the short-term rental space. With this asset class of short-term rentals, what do you envision, between how it's being operated and run now, right? It's been a fast emerging space in general. I feel like this space has changed a lot since 2019, 2020. It really got pretty hot. We've had some markets up and downs, but the key question is short-term rentals, Akshay. What are you thinking 3 to 5 years down the road? What are we going to see the market and the operations ecosystem look like?
I believe the ecosystem is finally going to look like the way we always imagine it to be, which is the more human experience you can create, which is what we call high touch in hospitality, the more you are going to actually get the earnouts. That's the idea. So now it's not about automations. It's about how much human experience, how good of a custom curated experience you can create, how much tailored you can. And that's what we're going with Alfred, with HostEasy, right? Because it has full control over every single part of your house and your listing, we want to then allow it to create an experience for your guest, which is almost impossible for us to do on scale, right? With that, and that is what I believe the ecosystem is going to move towards. And you're seeing that already. If you look at short-term rentals, there's some even $200,000, $300,000 properties which are making 10x and $5 million properties because it's an experience. It's a tent in the middle of nowhere which just looks like that, right? With some kind of guidebook, and it's a whole thing. That is how I see it actually becoming it. And one thing that I think a lot of people are not talking about, which we have to be very careful of, guys. Everyone who has a short-term rental, be very careful. Now, Airbnb, the biggest marketplace, also shows hotels. So now you are not isolated anymore. You are actually fighting with $50 per night prices. And what can you provide? It's a very specific kind of client that you're looking for, right? So to curate your
Right.
property like that.
I think, we have to point out that the guy who's here with his AI forward solution thinks that the future of short-term rentals is high-touch, curated human experience. And that so much resonates with what I see across the board, where in all these different industries, we're seeing people craving that human interaction, right? As face-to-face, as real life as possible, so that we know it's not fake. So we know it's not AI, right? Like we can watch these videos and my kids are better than I am on, let's say, Instagram with being like, that's AI, that's AI. They can spot it, but it's so tricky now. And people are craving those real, authentic experiences that aren't contrived. And what I love is how you're using technology to really facilitate that human connection and that great human experience.